Tired of taking the blame. Might just well play the game. Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is Claston Bernard with the New Right Network. And this morning, before I get started, I want to you know, just say a little bit about the tragedy this morning that's been taking place in New Zealand. And I'm happy further damage has been um, further damage has not happened. One especially with the Bangladesh cricket team that was en route. This should not have been. The situation just evil to the core. This is what anger does. Unhinged, erratic. Just this is anger. Anger solves nothing. This is pure evil. There's no words to say or comfort anyone going through and dealing with this tragedy. There's just no words. But this kind of evil should always be condemned. Whatever hurt, whatever you're feeling inside, it gives you no right to harm anyone. No right whatsoever. Country of New Zealand, do the best to bring justice. Do the best to bring comfort. Do the best you can. My condolences to all those who are dealing with this terrible, terrible tragedy. Now, my topic today, the Republican Senate, Paul Ryan, and the Democrats. It's kind of hard going into that after this. But how do we start? Well, one for sure. In 1776, President George Washington led a group of ragtag men, feet were bleeding, shoeless men in the cold. People didn't give them much of a chance against the well-trained, well-armed British army or the mercenaries, the German mercenaries they had hired. But they surprised the mostly German mercenaries in Trenton, New Jersey, and defeated them, capturing a lot of them. Many fled. They were surprised. It was still early years in the revolution to make America what it is today. 2 years later, while they were camped at Valley Forge in the blistering cold, men had only flour and water, whatever they could to survive. Flour and water, that's what they boiled. We call that dumpling. To survive the cold winter. Ill-equipped, bleeding feet. There are probably about 9,000 of them. 2,000 of them did not survive the winter. One of the things about President George Washington was that in that moment, in the midst of the revolution, he wrote a letter appealing, asking for help, asking for support. This was to create this democratic republic that we now call America. This was in the midst of war. He was appealing for public support. Why? Didn't all Americans or patriots wanted to be free of the tyranny? Didn't they want to experience what it was like to form their own nation? Why did he have to appeal to and with men dying left, right, and center? What was the mood like back then? What was the mood like back then? As a commander in chief, what was it like to know that you have men who are dropping left, right, and center because they were ill-equipped, ill-prepared to defend to fight, to take on a greater force, a greater enemy, to take on someone or an enemy who would do whatever it takes to make sure they kept control of this nation. Why did he have to make such an appeal in the midst of a war? Where am I going with this? Well, every country has a right to, to protect, defend their sovereignty, their borders. Every country has a right to do that. This is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an American issue. You have a president who has gone on and he had to declare a national emergency, not because the country is not able to afford to protect or build a wall on the southern border. No, I'm not saying the wall is going to solve much or anything, but it will deter, it will slow down. As a man, I have a right to protect my house, my doors, my windows, and if necessary, whatever force that is necessary. As the president of this country, you have a right to protect this country. To some, it's not a big issue because there are some Republicans who are benefiting from this, or their buddies are benefiting from this. For the Democrats, they want votes. So it's rubbing against the grain in a number of ways. There's some Republicans who, frankly, they're doing exactly what they want to do. Now, the president declared a national emergency to get funding, to pull military funding to help build this wall. 12 Republican Senate voted to block the national emergency that was declared by the president. 12. They give varied reasons, but most of them said that they did not want to, you know, the president was usurping, or the president was using his power, or the executive branch is overreaching in their power. But this is a very deceptive, and is in fact, this is not a very true statement. It's not a very good reason for them to say that they're standing on principles. There's no principle for what they have done. In 1976, in the 1976 National Emergency Act, the Congress gave the president the power to declare national emergencies. In fact, over 136 areas, 123 of those areas, he can do it unilaterally. So for them to make the statement that they're trying to rein in the executive power is deceptive. He's within his power. He's within his constitutional right to do what he did. The national emergency is not going to give, whether it's a Democrat, because first of all, gun rights, gun control is not considered part of the national emergency. So when Democrats raise the questions, well, what happened when a Democratic president comes in and want to declare a national emergency in relations to guns? That's not part of that national emergency. So people don't have to worry and be in fear of someone coming in and doing that. But to make the argument that this is over presidential overreach and the president is overstepping his constitutional bound is deceptive, and people have a right to be mad at these Republican senators. I know Ben Sass said, you know, he believed the president is within his right. So was Mike Lee from Utah. But people like Romney has no excuse. Paul Rubio, Mark Rubio, they have no excuse. They've given varied reasons. Yes, they wanted the Democrats. This is a Congress issue. Congress gave the president the power to do what he's doing. And the only way for them to do that is to change it by Congress. But again, here you have weak men who are in Congress kicking the ball, kicking the can down the road, not wanting to take the blame for what transpired. Congress is to be blamed for this. not the president. The president is doing what is within what has been given to him as the president of the United States of America. He can declare it. It's up to this. It's up to the court to decide after the challenges. If this is unconstitutional, but even the court probably will not be able to overturn this. And I'm not a legal scholar. I just like to study the U.S. Constitution and spend time looking at what these documents says. But just from the plain man, common man off the street reading these things, um, what they have done, this is not about principle. I know they keep saying this is about principle. There's no principle. It is Congress who has given the president this power. Congress can take it from them, but you don't block. You need Congress to overturn the national emergency rule, our law. But to come on TV or go into these publications and keep saying, "Oh, it's we want to stop this presidential overreach," this is ingenuous. There is an issue at the border. I know people keep saying, "Well, a lot of the drugs come through the port of entry." Now, let's get this right. You have an open border, open area, and you're trying to do illegal activities, and you're going to try to ship those illegal activities through the port of entry where there is more security and detection devices that will allow for these products to be detected. Now, we do know that people ship stuff still through the national port of entry because they do have contacts or because they think they can beat the system. Now, but for the regular person, why would he risk that when he can walk across the border? Why would he do that? Why would they do that? Now, I go back to President George Washington writing in the middle of the Revolution War for assistance. He needed assistance for his troops. He had to write in the midst of a war. And it just kind of reminds me, this situation reminds me of that. Here's the president declaring a national emergency saying, look, we're about to secure the southern border. How much will it deter and how much will it, we don't know. But here we are, this is what we're about to do. And Republicans who who are supposed to be working with the president. We're not saying just give him whatever, but this is within his constitutional rights. If you're going to challenge the president, challenge him based on the Constitution, because as many people have tried and said, you know what, they don't like him because of the manner he deals with people and all of that stuff. He has ruled by the Constitution, and that's why he's been untouchable in most cases. And when you have men with balls, and I must say that, continue to talk about the way that a man speaks, there's something wrong. There's something wrong with you. And yes, I'm going towards Paul Ryan. He made a statement which he's backtracked about the president's personality. We all know that the president has a history, but one of the things I don't do is to try to get into gossip of what was and what wasn't. He said, she said. Men don't get involved in that stuff. This is a president, if you punch him, he's going to punch you back. He doesn't just go out there and say, hey, and I'm not here trying to defend the president. I'm just looking at what I've read and seen so far. If you attack him, he will attack you. That's the kind of president we have. He's a man. I'm not here defending his history or what he has done, but since he has come into the White House, he has tried to do right by the people who elected him. To a fault to where he trusted a Paul Ryan, who ran with Mitt Romney for president, who is now going out there and saying the president will lose based on his personality. You could not get a more straight-laced white man as Mitt Romney to run for president. Rich, well put together, have it all going for him, say the right thing, but just didn't have the backbone when he needed to stand up. And he got slaughtered in 2012 because he was indecisive. He was afraid. People can see through this. And this is what people are missing about Donald Trump. They keep talking about his rhetoric and all these things, but they're missing something that he brings to the table. People want fighters. When George Washington was there appealing, he lost the Valley Forge. He lost 2,000 men. But he came out better on the other side. Those men at the end of that winter came out seasoned warrior, a military power, military might that they have not surrendered since then to the rest of the world. The Republican men need to stand up and grow some balls. Democrats might play nice, but they don't play fair. Why would you agree or join with 46 other Democrats to vote against something that is necessary? Oh, we know there's a crisis on the border, but there's a presidential overreach. There's no presidential overreach. That's the power that was handed to him. I don't agree with the abortion, but Roe v. Wade gave them that power. There's two ways to change it: Congress or the Supreme Court. Well, in the case of the national emergency, only the only Congress can change that. Stop trying to take the American people as fool or as to say, what would you say? We don't know what's going on. These nice talk. Oh yeah, we are Republicans. We just, what we do, we get punched in the mouth. We don't punch back. We don't fight. Yes, you have to be wise. You have to choose when to punch and when not to. Who to fight and who not to. I like George Bush. I had an opportunity to meet him in the White House. Yes, I really like George Bush. But one of the things that could not, why I was not in support of him, or didn't even feel like even saying I was going to support him, was he kept getting punched in his mouth. And it was so, oh man, it's Republicans. We just walk around straight lace, and we just let you just sling dirt and you just punch us in our mouth. You kick our legs out from under us, and we're not going to fight back because it's a gentleman things to do. Real men fight back. Strong men fight back. I've never liked bullies. But if you believe that a bully is going to back down by you walking tall and parading yourself like you're, oh, whoever you want to say you are, then you're in for a rude awakening. Bullies don't respect that. The left have a lot of bullies, and they will stop at nothing. They will turn everything over to destroy it. Case in point, i.e., look at Tucker Carlson, Judge Jeanine Pirro. They will do and say whatever that they need to do. Justice Kavanaugh, Justice Clarence Thomas, Judge Robert Bork. They pay millions of dollars to fabricate stories. That's how the left fight. That's how some Democrats fight. They fight dirty. Now, I'm not saying don't fight back. And I'm not saying don't fight dirty. But fighting dirty is not going to get you anyway. Punch back. Defend yourself. That's what I'm saying. And if you want to vote with the Democrats, don't frame it as a presidential overreach. It's not a presidential overreach. He's within his power. Be honest with the American people. We're voting with the Democrats because we oppose the president. Say what you want to say, but that's how it looks. That's how it looks. You fight, and you fight the right way. Imagine if President George Washington had said, you know what, man, look, dude, y'all going home. All we have here is flour, as we say back in Jamaica, dumpling and water. That's all we have in the wintertime. Men without shoes, feet bleeding. high fever, dropping like flies. Imagine if that's what if he had said that back in 1778, what would have happened to this country? Now, we might not be in a revolutionary war, but best believe most of the people who are coming here will vote Democrats. And as long as some of the Republican donors continue to get the free labor, they don't care about this. Now, there are a bunch of people running for president, running for the presidency, currently out there parading their democratic, socialist, Marxist philosophies. What has happened to this Democratic Party? How is it that you are moving from a constitutional, a democratic republic to a socialistic system of government, Marxist system of government? AOC has been front center. She's not running for president, but this is becoming an issue. Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders. You know, in my book, Outcast, this book right here, in it, I talk about how the Democratic Party has been pushing the Marxist and socialist philosophy on the Black community. And this has been going on for a long, long time. W.E.B. Du Bois, he was a Marxist or socialist, a communist sympathizer. You know, there's a danger here. And it's like I've written about it, it is coming to light. It is coming true. Communism kills everything it touches. It destroys. Now you have Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, AOC pushing a lot of socialistic principles. Kamala Harris kind of backed off of it a little bit. Well, maybe because she hasn't been in the news much lately. Some of these other presidential candidates. Well, Joe Biden is running, but Joe Biden will have he has to answer to his 1975 comment supporting segregation, and how the last president put him in the White House for 8 years, knowing that this is the man who didn't think blacks should be given the opportunity to be integrated. So he'll have to answer that. So there's some problems there. Washington Post did a good article covering that. But back to Bernie Sanders, AOC, Elizabeth Warren. One of the thing about people who tend to push socialism, Marxism, whatever the philosophy, I'm starting to see a trend. Most of the Marxist socialist philosophy does not come from a good place. It comes from a place of envy, and it comes from a place of in greed. These people have in common, they have never really made it to the top of the ladder in their field. And they never made it in top of, to the top. So in order for them to gain power, they push these philosophies. Knowing full well, none of these principles or policies can work. Green Deal need fossil fuel to even get off the ground. So that basically is an oxymoron, when people are not able to make it in their fields of study or get to the top, sometimes they tend to pivot to the government, because in the government they can try their sick ideologies and political philosophies by confusing people under the idea that this is for the common good, the common man. Rich people are demonized. Elizabeth Warren, and I think a few people are talking about taxing people who over 10 million, who make over $10 million at 70%. Sadly, there are a lot of people who make that kind of money and they support this kind of ideology. It makes no sense to me. Marxism is slavery reversed. The people who are willing to work, the middle class and the rich people, will be the people who will be working to support those who want to just sit back and do nothing. And you will work harder to increase your bottom line so the people who don't want to work or the people who these politicians have convinced not to work can benefit. You know, I've never heard anyone presented it like that, but you know, after reading a lot of Marxist philosophy and doctrine and looking at what has happened throughout history, it really, this is slavery. You work or I work and you eat. It's no different from plantation slavery. It's no different. That's why it's immoral. Slavery was immoral, so is Marxist philosophy, so is socialism. So I brought up those three people, mainly AOC, Elizabeth Warren, the grifter who grifted the Indian community to get ahead. And now she's out there condemning the educational scammers. They deserve what they get. They all deserve what they get. But to have this woman out there stirring up racial riots and condemning people for what she has done shows what the Democratic Party has to offer. These people, they people need to understand what's pushing them is envy and greed. Bernie Sanders keep talking about taking from this program and that program and this program and giving to another person. That is immoral. Why don't he take what he owns and give it to other people? Start by doing that. It's good. Charity is good. Charity is a good thing. You work hard and you give it to other people. No one will condemn you for doing it. But you don't dictate what is fair. They're always talking about equality. Equality, people need their equal amount. Define what is equal amount. In some state, like New York City or Hawaii, people people on government support gets about $66,000 a year. $66,000 a year for not doing anything. Is that fair? Define equal, you deserve your fair amount. Capitalism is brutal, but it's one system. Poor people have a better chance of advancing themselves through. It's the only proven system that has allowed poor people to get ahead. Let's look at Venezuela right now. I said that in my last video. Venezuela was one of the richest countries in the world in the 60s and 70s when capitalism was roaring like a lion. Chavez took control. Look where it is today. People deserve their fair and equal amount. Life is not fair. Capitalism speak to the competitive advantages. You can take it or leave it in capitalism. In communism or socialism, Marxism, one of the ism schism, you have no choice. You have no choice. And we're on a path to that. The Democratic Party has become a party, like I said in my book, of socialistic, Marxist driven policies. That is what is driving them. Again, I would love to see people stand up to this evil philosophy that has caused more death and more tragedy and starvation in all world history. in over 100 years. My book, Outcast, can be found at Amazon.com. This is Claston Bernard with the New Right Network signing off. Thank you.